Okay, what's going on, guys? We're going to be talking about the trade reviews for November 13th. So I took three trades today. One of them was a swing overnight. That printed like 80% at highs, and then the other two were just they were just some sloppier trades again. I shouldn't even have been really trading this. First of all, we're going to talk about the missed opportunity aspect of things. I was looking to long Tesla, and what didn't I do? I didn't long Tesla. I'm gonna let price develop is what I really was ultimately focusing on because we were in a new week. It's a Monday print, right? I'm not really looking to trade something that doesn't necessarily ring a bell for a directional bias or nothing like that. It's a new week. There's data this week, CPI report this week. Got to take things slow, right? Especially being an indices trader where you could get toasted pretty fast. I primarily trade smaller expiration indices, SPY and QQQs, so it's got to be good price movements. It's got to be decent range, things like that. There's got to be the setup, right? So I was looking at the hourly Tesla potential hourly potential bear trap off the open at 950, right? So I called that out right here. So we're going to go over to Tesla. And the reason as to why I really like this, first of all, guys, was just a simple gap and go setup. Here's the gap, right? Gap, fill gap, and then go, right? That's what happened on Friday. We had a nice, strong candle closure to Friday's bar, as well as the weekly perspective was kind of just holding that 50 and 200 weekly SMA, right? So I was looking for this one for at least relief back up into like this range of this candle high, trade through maybe some of this imbalance, things like that, right? I posted in the watch list. This was last night, 11:07 p.m. yesterday. Uh, this is the day that I was looking to trade this. 215 reclaim, and I'll trade this through imbalance back to 218, right? That was my little setup. This was the I want to say that's Friday, Thursday, when this was like Tuesday's low or something like that, right? So whenever you come into the Tesla chart, you're going to notice, yeah, here's 215, right? Boom, 215. Guess what, guys? This was the imbalance I was looking for ultimately to be filled, right? And normally whenever Tesla gets some sort of extensive move up or extensive move down, you, or it's ready to go, you're going to notice how, yeah, you get this push, doesn't hold 215, gets beneath, volume starts dying off. It starts basing off of like the 212 to 210 area. And ultimately, what I could have been doing if I had a long side bias for this one was honestly just, taking your swing low, swing high for the time being, looking at like equilibrium, something along the lines of that. This is kind of like the fib that I'm really drawing is from this low, or I mean, you could take this low if you want, this low to this current swing high, and I'm looking for discount or beneath. So the 212 to 210 area was a very valid long spot, especially if you take off your extended and you really look at like some sort of support coming from a pivotal support coming off of Tesla, which is pretty much like right here. Um, that was kind of the level that I had really marked out, right? But Tesla's been a very relatively weak name, so I didn't want to jump the gun on a long down here, and I took my eyes off of it, but I started noticing that this bar was starting to close as a bear trap, right? That's your hourly bar. It pushes beneath, tests into like this order block spot, right? And from there on out, uses this hourly support, hourly resistance now turning a support. It makes a lot of sense as to why the higher time frame, higher low is going to be, off of this spot. Here's a higher low, here's a higher low, higher lows across the board, right? Higher low within this spot, considering that this was an hourly breakout spot, it makes a lot of sense, right? So, push up, soak that liquidity off of that beneath 215, probably a nice bear trap. Once you get above that level, guys, these 215 front runners are going to get squeezed out, and it's going to add fuel to the fire. That's exactly what happened, and I even posted an intraday. Um, this that was the active candle. That was the active sequence. There was my level right there. Um, and yeah, so I was also looking to watch for AMD off of 117, and that was right here, 9:52 a.m. 9:52 a.m. was literally on this bar. I was looking at the anomalies off of this support, right, into this imbalance. Then we rip back up beneath that low hammer candle closure. Not necessarily a hammer candle, but more of like a reversal bar. Decent volume behind it, right? And I was looking for a higher low entry. I just didn't like the fact that we were beneath 117, so I kind of laid off the gas a little bit. But this trade off of this level would have been awesome, just considering the fact that Nvidia this morning was relatively strong, right? So that's two missed opportunities on Tesla and AMD. Actually three. And then I was also looking at the QQQ order block from yesterday to look for potential long side trade, considering the fact that there wasn't any sort of really violent sell-off coming off of um, this open, right? It was there, but it wasn't necessarily so. It was kind of tying in with the Tesla bear trap off the open, right? And obviously, guys, when Tesla shows relative strength and adds a boost into the Nasdaq, it's going to oftentimes, it's going to lead to a nice move higher. So, sorry guys, I was getting a call, but yeah, so that's your, mid candle support, right? I was looking at this order block over here or FVG fill coming from, this bar into like this little range right here. This is also a previous support, right? So this is the range in which I was looking at, right? That was actually the zone that I marked out. Um, there's the little zone from the wick. There's imbalance, and then there's kind of like your little order block. If you go to the 15, that's kind of like your 15-minute order block right here, right? Very small spread candle that led to a major expansion from Friday. We obviously, had that neutral bar right off of the open on the 15, but this overall candle structure prevented me from going long on the trade. And then from there on out, yeah, it started flying. All of this started flying. I missed it all. Um, and then I started really thinking that with a weaker bid within the market, that this is going to see a leg down. Now, keep in mind, guys, the volume is never going to be pouring in on the day before CPI. It doesn't normally happen, and the market's only going to wait on a day for CPI. Mondays have been trash as of lately. Um, so I had some exposure to a 1 DTE short, very light and waiting for this bar to be a rejection. It wasn't, so I didn't size into it. I already have some exposure to the 1 DTE short at 10:44 a.m. 10:44 a.m. was like literally right here. I was looking for this candle to start rejecting as well, and what this really was just a sweep of the current high of day, and I noticed a weak bid extending into that sweep, right? So I was looking to front run a potential short, didn't really work out. Wasn't very happy with my execution on this one, and I just started DCing into that spot where, I started out in this a little too early. I sized in at 84 a little bit, and then I said I was protecting my ads, um, still holding on. I said I really got to protect this here for a chance of a higher low. That was at 11:05, right? 11:05 was literally like right here, right? So it kept rejecting that level, right? And then you just get that major expansion right after, right? And I kept holding on to this because it kept wicking down and rejecting and rejecting. And guys, ultimately all this was really doing was it was drawing into this untested high liquidity on ES, right? So here's your level right here. It was pretty much drawing into that upper range of that spot, right? I was trying to probably front run some sort of breakdown off the 440 psych, but yet again, if there's no signal off a psych, then what's the significance behind that psych? At the end of the day, it's just a number, right? So um, stay level-headed with your trading right now because I've had a rough 2 days of, being realistic. I ended up not really getting so toasted on this. I mean, I kept adding to it. Um, as you can see, I started adding into I added one more time, like literally all the way up here. Yeah, so I added once more at 55, so it was a pretty bad drawdown. I added at like 75, 85, and 55. The 90 starter wasn't anything that I actually cared about. I wanted to wait for that bar to reject, and then I added a little bit too fast after that. Whenever you guys are adding to a position or planning to DCA into something, first of all, don't be speculative like I was. Second of all, please don't run to, averaging down 5 minutes after you enter the trade. If you could get a much better average down spot where it's going to majorly affect your average, then just simply wait, right? And that's all I could have really done, and I didn't. Um, so yeah, if I added this at lastly at 11:59, and of course at 11:59 was like the spot where it was. Here's 11:59. We got that little flush. That little flush was all just a bull flag. Um, but I also added a 0 DTE trade up here, 11:51. So I did catch the short-term top on SPY, and this was just a nice little scalp. I did end up, it ran 70%. So that was pretty much just the day for me. NQ, what it really was I was targeting a sweep up here, and it looked like a sweep and a trap of this high, of like your pre-market session high on NQ, right? So that was very clean, as well as sweeping this high on ES, right? So it was more or less of a draw on liquidity for ES to push up into untested highs to really initiate that downside coming off of uh, the Nasdaq, right? And I was just looking at, these relatively weaker names, and I was looking at Apple, things like that. And Apple was my thesis, right? Apple was just basing, looking like a flag, no true bidder within the market, and I was really, trapped in, really, really, really glued to the fact that this looked like an hourly bear flag type of setup, right? We really couldn't get like back above like this pre-market swing low, right? We were pretty much just rejecting that 50% retracement and just sitting there, no volume, nothing, not like really no directional read that I could get off of this one. I just figured we would probably try to see some downside, but it's the day before CPI. I probably took it a little bit too serious, so it did result in a 1 DTE loss on the QQQ and a 0 DTE win on the QQQ. I believe the loss was like a 27% loss, which should have been much. I was green on the trade on on the trade down here and over here. So should I have covered, considering that this is the 15-minute orb high that we've been basing on for literally hours? Probably, right? Did I get a little bit greedy? 100%. Did I execute that in a proper way that tells me, hey, you're you're really putting your risk off the table? No, I gotta keep my risk a little bit more off the table at these times where the markets are harder to read, and yeah, take it from there. Take it one step at a time. So missed opportunity on Tesla, AMD, and QQQ order block off the open. Right, calls were real nice. The plan was real nice, and then I just didn't follow through with waiting for price to develop or draw to a spot where a short looked good. So if I simply just waited for the one DTE position, would have been a beautiful day. But the fact that I didn't makes it a very mediocre day. Um, Please take note of that. And yeah, let's kill it tomorrow.